What's the good word, It's your boy DKB here. I can't wait until next week. I finally get this rug taken care of. I feel like I'm walking around like J. Cole. But nonetheless, getting back into our 2024 New York Jets undrafted free agent class, I have another fun prospect I was able to dive into. And to be honest, I'm surprised a couple of these guys that we have from this class didn't get drafted. It's not like there's huge red flags from a character or tape perspective that makes you say, completely no. So to be honest, I'm pretty high on this class. I think this could be one of the top 5 best undrafted free agent classes in the NFL just on paper. But today we're covering safety / cornerback Jarius Monroe. There's a lot to love about this particular player. 6'1", 201 pounds, a former 3-star recruit out of Tulane, played 5 years in college, 59 games to his name. Originally started with Nickel State, and I believe he was playing a combination of safety, nickel, cornerback there. He wanted a jump up in competition, so he ended up going to Tulane, and he had an older brother that went there for 4 years as well. It's close to home. It made it an easy transition in 2022. All he did with that step up in competition is grab himself 6 interceptions and 22 pass breakups over the next 2 seasons. And to be honest, the dude is a ball magnet. He's literally always around the ball. I know you hear that from a lot of people, but when you take a look at his production, it matches that to a T, right? I think there was something like 46 pass deflections over the course of his career to match the somewhere between 6 and 9-ish interceptions that he's had. He's led his team in either pass breakups or interceptions at various stops, which is what you love to see as well. He was introduced, interestingly enough, because I seen when we announced him, or at least when he made the announcement that he was signed to the New York Jets as an undrafted free agent, it was marked that he's a safety specifically, right? And you're talking about him coming off of his collegiate career as mostly a outside cornerback. So this did perk things up, right? Especially because the easiest entrance to earning a spot on this New York Jets defense is either going to come at cornerback or it's going to come at safety. So comparing him to Jarek Bernard Converse from last year, it's an easy transition to seeing him find his way onto this roster, especially in the safety room where his skill set and agility may lend itself to better productivity for him in the long run as a NFL player. He got told the day before practice, I believe it was, that he's going to be playing safety throughout his practice time at the East-West Shrine Bowl. So one, I love the fact that he went out and balled out with very little notice. So it's not like he had prep time to go out and do anything. What he did there was he earned practice player of the week. He went into the East-West Shrine Bowl game. He won MVP. And then I love some of the quotes that I've seen from him throughout the course of this offseason. He mentioned as part of making that switch to safety, seeing the whole field slows down the game so much for me. And this is a guy that already has a lot of tantalizing ball skills. You love the way that he plays and challenges anything that comes into his field of vision. And so this just seems like a smooth transition for a guy that never really had plenty of opportunities at this spot. He, during his time at Tulane, he earned the responsibility to be able to shift coverages, right? This is a role generally assigned to a Mike linebacker, right? You see certain teams in the NFL, even if they have a safety, like a Jamal Adams during his prime, like a Derwin James, a high upper echelon guy, understands the communication piece. You can see that working. So this is one of the best elements without him having to necessarily do anything on the field, is that he's a great communicator. I've seen this called out plenty of times when people have brought up Jarius's name. He plays every single snap like it's the Super Bowl. This is literally a quote from himself for around sometime around when the East or West Shrine Bowl games and practices were kicking off. And you see this on tape. This is a guy that preaches passion in the game. He lives, breathes. He's willing to die on the field in the name of loving football. And aside from the latter piece about, death, this guy literally seems like he embraces what you want in an NFL football player, especially on the defensive side where things can get a little bit more lackadaisical for the secondary position. This was one of the guys that, outside of a Leonard Taylor, who I'm waiting to break down as well, seems like he could have been a huge steal for us. He was projected to be at the highest range I've seen a 5th round draft prospect, just based on his build, his size, and the production that you've seen throughout the course of his college career. He's also risen to the occasion in a lot of the biggest games. I think about some of the recent ones. USC's Cotton Bowl, where he was able to go and pick off Caleb Williams, and then he had another strong showing versus SMU when they had their title game in the AFC kicking off. Now, some of the things that he's going to bring that I think will lend itself well, right? Whether he ends up making the team as a safety, a cornerback, doesn't really matter. A lot of these things work out in both positions. I think they just will help him out or hide certain things a lot better at the safety spot. Immediately, you think about these undrafted free agents and these day 3 guys, and you say, well, there needs to be a role in special teams. He already has that down pat. Kick coverage, punt return unit, field goal block units. He's already done all 3, and he's done very well for himself there as well. You love the large hands. You love the physical build. You can see him mirror people when they're releasing off of the line of scrimmage decently well for a guy of his size. Good eye discipline in zone coverage. Baits quarterbacks in the throws, which is something you love to see, especially for a guy that's playing cornerback, in that he gives the appearance, right? This is the whole thing. It's no secret here. He gives the appearance that there may be an open opportunity or that the window is larger than it is before he shuts the door on it. Forces outside releases to the sideline. That's textbook coverage. If a guy is thinking he's going to just hit a go route and take it the distance down inside, he's forcing you out of bounds, right? There's no opportunity for you to make a play on the ball whatsoever if he has any say for it. He also does really, really well with inside press technique, where if he understands that, okay, I'm dealing with somebody in the slot, for example, or somebody that wants to take it inside on a slant, I want to give myself the best opportunity to stay in front of this, nullify the play to begin with, and if not, to be able to stay tied to the hip and coverage. He's a big hitter. We'll talk about that later. Obviously, there's some tackling issues here. Plays the ball at the catch point, though. Nobody is just getting open looks on him unless he's been burned right from the get-go. Strong coverage instincts, obviously, as part of the production that we've talked about. That's on display. Excels in small zone areas. So for the size, for the skill set that we've talked about so far, I do find it most interesting that he seems like he does better in off-man and zone situations. He has the build for press. I just don't think he has all of the consistent technique. Then, of course, you have to bring in the questions about, well, he's only played in, FBS competition. So the next step up, even though we've seen him ball out at each of these levels, will be something that needs to be addressed. And then I do like the balance, seeing him play the high to low, route coverages and identifying patterns, etc., when he's working underneath. There are going to be question marks here with him. 13 penalties in his last 3 years. The hips are high. The hips are tight. You always see him, if he needs to kind of transition or switch things up a little bit, seem like he's just a tad late. The eyes and everything else may sync up, but the body's just not quite there. He's not a fast twitch player by any means. He's not a turtle out there, but this isn't a guy that's just going to be able to keep his hips on the swivel, to say the least. There's going to be long speed question marks. There were 2 games games, or not 2 games, but 2 plays. Actually, I think it was both 2 plays and 2 games against Ole Miss where you see him get absolutely evaporated right from the start of the play, and he had no shot to catch up against the guy. So this isn't a Brandon Echols type, athlete where the recovery speed is there and he can afford to not always have, excellent technique. He's going to have to be essentially perfect at everything. Although, if you watch his tape, he does have a fair amount of reps where he's essentially using Darrelle Revis's patented, if you will, soft shoe press technique. So basically you're in a press coverage alignment in front of your man, and then right as things are getting snapped, you slowly start backpedaling, and then you look to mirror depending on whatever the wide receiver is doing. So no jam involved. He hasn't been able to necessarily excel in it, but I do like some of the reps that I've seen on tape there for a guy that can get into the face and make some things happen. Susceptible to easy releases if he isn't jamming a guy. So speaking of those soft shoe releases, that is or the technique anyways, that is a lot of the times where you see him get caught slipping or off guard, and he doesn't have the speed to be able to recover well from that. You'll see him get grabby versus speed players. You'll see him get grabby when he takes his eye away from the balls. This is why I think he would excel in a safety role where he can keep things in front of him. It was interesting that during the East-West Shrine Bowl, they played him as a single high safety. Best look may be closer to the box or some kind of combination thereof of the two, but we'll see how he adjusts to Tony Odom and what they ask him to do. Bit of a shoulder tackler. Again, this is the problem with a lot of guys on defense these days that aren't on the line in the front seven. It is what it is. Otherwise, he's still a pretty strong tackler by all accords. And overall, Jarius Monroe is a guy that I really, really like. I think he's vastly underrated. Again, we're talking about on the high end what was a potential 5th round selection. But there's definitely shades of Bryce Hall from the physical build, right? Doesn't quite have elite length, but the hands are definitely great. The ability to go out there and turn over things, get the ball back in the offense's hands is definitely exceptional. And I believe I seen in 2023 he had a sub 50 passer rating when he was targeted. So either way, everything about his offseason is trending on a high note. The man is overly positive. I love how his career has continued to evolve, and I think especially in this coaching staff's hands, this is a guy that could be very surprising. I don't want to put a ceiling necessarily on what he could be in this Jets defense, but I do think in the event that we don't continue to extend Ashton Davis after this year, he could end up becoming an adequate replacement for him as essentially the third safety in the rotation as soon as next year. We'll see if that ends up coming to fruition, but ultimately, let me know what you guys think about Jarius Monroe, and I'll catch you again. Peace.